Otherwise, I'm recording again 7,000. Okay, so yeah, your employer has to match this. So you not only have to pay the salary of your employee, you have to pay the payroll tax. Okay, that 6.2% that the employee pays goes to unemployment. So when somebody gets laid off, that money goes for that. Does that make sense? And usually unemployment lasts 26 weeks, okay, or 6 months. You can get a partial amount of money that you were making while you were working, then you got laid off, you filed for unemployment, you get a check, okay? It's not going to be the same amount of money you were making before, okay? Now, during COVID, they've sent some pretty big checks, you know, like $600. I don't know if that's a week or a month or 600. I don't know. I obviously didn't qualify for that. I still have a job. Okay, so then the third part of Social Security is for public assistance for like disabled people, people that can't work, people that might be blind or deaf or something like that. So it's kind of a safety net. And that's funded through both federal taxes and state taxes. Okay, but the biggest part of Social Security, obviously, is this retirement. Okay, I looked this up this morning. The average payout, and we'll just say grandma on average gets $1,500 a month or $18,000 a year. That's in the state of Kansas. Okay, now you don't want to live on that. Okay, you don't want to retire on $18,000 a year. Okay, now if you're married when you retire, then your husband or wife may have another $18,000. Okay, now my wife's going to have more than me. I make it really about the average American, how much the average American makes. I make about that. Okay, so that's what I pay, and 6.2% of what I make is about $280, $285 every pay period. Okay, or every month. Okay, so I get paid twice a month, so $280 a month. Okay, if you multiply or divide 280 into $1,500 a month, that's basically about 5 people that make the average amount to cover grandma's retirement today. Does that make sense? It takes 5 of us to pay for grandma. All right. Now, what's interesting about Social Security is you pay this 6.2% tax on the first $143,000 you make a year. Okay, if you make $150,000 a year, you only pay 6.2% on the first $143,000. So if you make $1 million, you pay 6.2% on $143,000, nothing after that. Now you're going to pay other taxes beyond that, yes? But the reason they do that, this is called means testing. The reason they do that is because people that make, you know, $250,000 a year, they're never going to get that much money out of Social Security. It's not fair. That's not the way it was set up. You know what I mean? So it used to be $99,000 a year. You paid, you know, up to $99,000. If you made $150,000, you only owe them. Now they're raising that because we're running out of money. Okay. When they originally designed this, I mentioned this yesterday. The retirement age was 65. Life expectancy was 66. So the average person would be on Social Security for 1 year. Most people would, you know, a lot of people wouldn't even make it to 65 because of life expectancy. So there wasn't a real burden on the system. But now life expectancy in this country is closer to 79. Okay, so we raised the retirement age 2 years. Okay, now I don't want to work till I'm 67. Okay, so how do I prepare for that if I don't want to work till I'm 67? I got to save money, right? I've got to invest. I got to build a nest egg of my own. Yes. Now, when this started, this money would go into a Social Security fund. Okay, and the government would hold that money for you when you retire. Now, it really didn't grow any interest. Okay, but they held it for you. In the 1970s, Congress, who was hurting for money, looked at all this money in the Social Security fund, and they started to take it out and use it for other things. basically raiding people's retirement funds. Congress did this. Guys, today, there is no Social Security fund. Okay, so the $280 that comes out of my paycheck every month goes directly to grandma. It doesn't go into the fund. Follow me? Okay, so they're saying by 2037, using this current formula, all right, there will not be enough money in Social Security to pay these checks. Okay, that's 16 years from now. Okay, so is it going to be there for you? Is it going to be there for me? Okay, now you can take your Social Security check and you start taking that at 62, 5 years early. You'll get a smaller check. Does that make sense? If you wait till you're 67, you'll get a bigger check. If you wait till you're 70, you get a bigger check. Okay, I'm taking mine at 62. I'm getting, I've been paying into this thing my whole life. I'm getting it as soon as I can because I don't know how long I'm going to live. We'll get some of my money back from the government. All right? That's just kind of how I feel about it. Now, it's smarter for some people to wait. If you can wait till you're 70, you get a bigger check. Does that make sense? If you die, your spouse can take yours if it's worth more. Okay, so my wife makes more money than I do. Okay, so she pays more into Social Security and has. Okay, she's a couple of years older than I am too, so she's been working longer than I have, paying in more than I have. So her check will be bigger. So if she passes away before I do, which isn't likely, I can take her Social Security instead of mine. Does that make sense? Now you can't pass it on to your kids. Okay, what you can do if you do lose a parent, and we may have some students that has happened to. That third part for public assistance for children that lose a parent and the surviving spouse, they can get Social Security up until the age of 19 for that child. Okay, it helps the surviving parent raise the kid, okay, which I think most people agree is a pretty good program. Most people really like Social Security, okay, because our most vulnerable oftentimes are children and the elderly, and we want to take care of those folks. All right, so. How can we make this better? How can we fix this? How can we keep this from going bankrupt? Okay, that's a big question. Of course, yesterday I talked about the baby boom. We have a lot of old people that are retiring right now, a big number of people retiring, which puts a strain on. So in order to continue this $1,500 payout, you're either going to have to raise taxes or cut the benefits to balance this out before it goes bankrupt. You follow me? Or you could raise the means test to $200,000, and those that are richer could pay in more. They could pay 6.2% of $200,000 instead of $143,000. Okay, those are the likely options that we have. But there's a third option, okay, or a fourth option, because you're not going to cut this. Okay, the old people vote. Okay, and as soon as you say, well, we're going to have to cut the benefit that people are getting. Okay, whichever party says that, Republican or Democratic Party says that, we need to cut this, the other party is going to use it against them. Okay, and so this will not happen. This will never be lowered. You understand? Guys, it's kind of funny. We have a pretty darn good work ethic in this country. When we raised this to 67, there was no public outcry, people freaking out, getting angry, rioting in the streets. Back about 10 years ago in France, they raised the retirement age from 55 to 60, and there were massive protests in the streets. Okay, generally old people don't go out and protest. This was young people that didn't want to work until they were 60. Okay, Europe is a lot different than the United States. Okay, when it comes to our public policy. So, all right, so here's an option. This is privatizing Social Security. Okay, so see if you can follow me on this. Now, this was actually proposed by George W. Bush in 2000, and he had a Republican Congress, and they would not pass it because they're afraid to mess with Social Security. Somebody's going to have to fix this. Okay, here's one way of doing it, is by privatizing. So what we're going to do is we're going to temporarily raise taxes. I know that stinks, okay, but we're going to raise taxes to 6.5%, okay, And this is going to bring in now $300 a month for the average person, okay? Now, you're going to be able to take $20 a month. This $20 extra dollars. This is you. $20 a month times 12, $240, right? This goes into your own private account. Now, where can you put this money? You can put it in your savings account, right? Any of you guys have savings accounts? What kind of interest you getting on your savings account there, people? Pennies? Pennies, right? It's really low, like less than 1%. You're loaning your money to the bank, and they're giving you less than 1% interest. Where, if you're 20 years old, should you put your money? To grow it. In the stock market. Okay? Over here, look at this, okay? Come with me. This is the stock market from 1934 to 2015. Okay? On average, this grows between 6 and 12%. Your money. Okay? Over time. Okay? So your savings account, which you may need that money, sometime soon. I understand. So you can't really invest it. It grows here. Okay, if you get 6%, that's pretty darn good. My wife and I met with our financial guy a couple weeks ago. In 2019, we got 21% return on our money. 21%. Okay, so if you go 6% here, so just for a year, now actually we're going to do this for 5 years. Okay, we're going to keep this formula for 5 years. $20 a month for 5 years. Okay, so this times 5. Right? It's going to be, we know roughly what it's going to be, but I'll get an exact number here. My calculator. Okay. So you got 240 times 12. 240 times 1, 2 equals, okay, it's 2,800. Now, you're going to be getting some interest on this as well over time, over 5 years. Okay. So it's 2,880. We're going to say this is after 5 years at $20 a month. Okay. We're going to say this is now $4,000. Okay. Everybody with me? Okay. Now, if you were, okay, remember retirement's at 67. If you were 62 years old to 67 during that 5-year period, right? You now have $4,000 in your savings. In your investments. You with me? It's not a lot, okay? But it'll cover a couple months here of your Social Security. So what we are going to do is we're going to cut this after 5 years, okay, to $1,300 a month, okay? Now, so we were taking 20 over here. Now we're going to take 50 over here. So every month you take $50 times 12 times 5 for 5 years. You with me? You guys following this math? Okay, this is going to take like 35 years to implement. You understand? It doesn't happen overnight. Okay, we've got to do this slowly. Okay, so I've got 4,000. I got $50 times 12, $600 times 5 equals $3,000. That can't be right. 50 times 12, 600 times 5, $3,000. Okay. Now, you've got $4,000 already in there, plus $3,000, okay? Now you're at 7, but because you have more money in there, you're growing interest, okay? So this is now going to be about $10,000 after 10 years. Okay? It's slow going, okay? Now, if you were 57 with this started, now you're 67, yes? Okay, and you have $10,000 in your savings, okay? Now, once you start getting more money in here, the faster it grows. There's more money to turn over, okay? It's called compound interest. All right, now, so we're going to cut Grandma's benefit a little bit more because Grandma has $10,000 over here, okay? We're just going to cut it to $1,100, okay? And now we're going to take $75 a month out of this 300 and send it over here, okay? So we got 75 times 12 times 5 years, 4,500, okay? Plus interest, okay? Now we're at about $18,000, okay? After 15 years, all right? So you were 52 to 67, you've been doing the same thing, okay? And young people, you started this when you were 20, okay? This is going to be really good for you because you've got a whole bunch of years to be adding in money, right? This is great for young people. Now, you now have $18,000, which is basically a full year of what you used to get. Yes? That's a full year, all right? So we're going to go to $100 a month over here, $200 going here for Grandma, okay? We cut this to $900 a month, okay? We are now in year 15 through 20, so 100 times 12 times 5 is $6,000 plus interest. We're now at $25,000. This is 20 years of doing this, okay? You were 52 when you started doing this. Now you're 67. You have $25,000, okay? And then we go to year 25. We take more and more. And then after about 35 years, people are taking all $300 and putting it in their own account. Investing it, growing it. The money we put in now, the 280 we put in now, doesn't grow. It just goes from me to Grandma right now. You understand? This system is broken. It's going to go out and run out of money in 2037. Now, will they ever do this? Chances are, no. I'm just wasting my time. Really. Because Congress doesn't have the guts to do this. Now, one of the fears is, well, if people have all this money in the stock market, what happens if the stock market crashes? Well, we all go to, hell in a handbasket together. The whole thing, just like in 1929, we go into depression, and it sucks. Okay? Now, one of the things you do as you get older, you move your money out of the stocks and you put them into safer things like bonds or certificates of deposit or money markets, where you might get 2 or 4 or 5% interest with less risk. When you're young, you take risk because you have more time to recover from losing. Does that make sense? Okay, now I am over 50 years old, but I'm still like in the stocks. You know what I mean? I'm like, let's make some money, okay, so I can retire. Does that make sense? Guys, I don't know what this is going to look like when you guys get to 62. I don't know. Okay? But I like this option because you control your own money. Do you have to put it in the stock market? No, you can put it in the savings account and get less than 1% return on your money. Not going to have a lot when you're done. Okay? Sometimes you got to take risks. You got to put your money to work for you. Guys, listen, I'm just like a normal person, right? So when the stock market has a good year or a good day even, I sometimes make more money in the stock market than coming to work that day. You understand? That's putting your money to work for you. All right? You guys know about 401ks? Anybody teach you about 401ks? No? Let's talk. Okay, let's do some financial stuff here, all right? This is for you, okay? I don't have to do this, but I'm doing it, okay? Listen, when you get a job, now let's say you go to college, okay? Or maybe you don't go to college. Maybe go and get a job with the company, and they offer a 401k, okay? Do it, okay? Do it. So basically, the diocese has a 401k, okay? So where I work here, okay, I take 5%. Actually, I take 6%. 6% of my check every 2 weeks goes to my 401k. This is invested in the stock market. Okay? The diocese matches that 5% to my 401k. This is free money. This isn't on top. This isn't part of my salary. This is my benefits. Okay, so any job you have that offers a 401k, yes, your check is going to be smaller. But if you put money into 401k, your employer matches that up to a certain amount. Some companies go up to 6%. I think the diocese goes to 5%. Okay, so my wife has a 401k too. She works at Coke Industries. Now hers far outperforms the one I have with the diocese. Because those people over at Coke know how to invest money. Okay, they're smart. Okay, not saying the people at the diocese aren't smart, but yeah. Anyhow, so this is part of my retirement. So on top of Social Security, I'll have a 401k. Now, just to give you an indication, this is my 23rd year. Okay, and I've been putting money in that 401k every year, and I'm about the average income of the average American. Okay, so after 23 years of putting money into 401k, this is what I have right now in my 401k. Can I retire on that? Maybe for 2 or 3 years, okay, but not for 15 years. You know what I mean? Now, with that and that, can I retire? Yes. Not real comfortably. Not going to be able to do the kind of travel I want to do. You know what I mean? Because I want to go to the Caribbean. I want to go to Europe. You know what I mean? Trip to Australia would be kind of cool. New Zealand, I'd like to do that. French Polynesia, sure, that would be awesome. Okay. It's where they have those tiki huts over the water, the clear blue water. Yeah, I want to go there. So I got to save. You got to save. You got to invest to do those things. Now, on top of that, guys, I take money out of my check every month, okay, $200 more out of my check into what's called a Roth IRA. See, I teach about this in history, but you guys didn't have me for history, so I'm teaching you now. Okay? Roth IRA is the best. Okay, now, this is taking money that you could use on other things, like gas and food and rent and, you know, fun stuff, too. Okay? So you take this. Now, you can put in up to, I think it's $6,500 a year into a Roth individual retirement account. Okay, so the first time you get a good job, and you're like, I'm going to invest some money. This is what you will invest in, is a Roth IRA. Because when you get the money out at 65, now you can't touch the money in an IRA until you're 65. Maybe 62. 62, I think it is. Okay, 62. You pay no taxes on it. It's tax-free. So all the money you made in the stock market over all those years in your retirement account, your IRA, tax-free. Now, there's traditional IRAs, not Roth IRAs, that you can do as well. Those you have to pay taxes on. It's called capital gains taxes. Okay, capital gains taxes are like if you invest money, say I invest $100, okay, and I make $100, now I have $200. Now, if I sell what I invested, I pay 29% of that to the government. So I've made $100. I got to pay 29% to the government. That's capital gains tax. You know, like when you flip a house, so you buy a house, it's beat up. You know what I mean? You invest in it, you make a profit selling the house for $50,000. You got to pay capital gains tax, 29%. It sucks. Okay, that's when you use money to make money. That's capital gains. With me? Okay. Okay, so these are all the things that my wife and I are doing. Many of your parents are doing. Okay, is not relying on Social Security for our retirement, but doing other things like 401ks and Roth IRAs to invest for the future. Okay, some years it goes down, but you're in it for the long haul. I'm not touching that money till I'm 62. Does that make sense? So you leave it in there. I don't even watch the stock market. I got a lot of money in it, but I don't watch it. Not on a day-to-day basis. It drives me nuts. Okay? All right, cool. All right, on Social Security, privatization. You like this idea of kind of transferring money? Yes, there is some risk involved with this. Okay? People will be investing their money in different places. Okay? If you're doing it in the stock market, it could. Bad things could happen in the stock market. But if you're young, again, you have time to recover from that. Okay? So you decide on privatizing Social Security. Okay? Boy, this looks like a math class in here, right? It's called cross-curricular learning. Business and math and government class. Okay? All right. Does anybody know what full tuition is here at Bishop Carroll? For 1 year? Okay. For BC, it's $9,600 a year. Okay. Now, I don't pay that. I pay what the diocese pays, or your parishes pay. Yes? Which is about $3,700, $3,750, something like that. Okay. Now, that's full tuition. So if you have a foreign exchange student, this is why Tish likes foreign exchange students, because they write a check for $9,600 a year. Okay. You guys don't. Your parishes don't. You understand, right? So you want those kids? Let's get them in here. Okay. Now, Northwest High School. Okay, the average state public school student, any idea how much it costs on average in the state of Kansas to educate one public school student at Northwest High School for 1 year? Carroll's $9,600. Around $13,000. Okay. Now that $13,000 comes from different places. Comes from property taxes, comes from state taxes, okay? And they get a little bit of federal money as well. That pays for public schools, okay? Pays for the teachers, the lights, staff, the grounds, water, whatever, everything you need, right? $13,000 per head, all right? Now, our school's public school system is not the greatest in the world, is it? Now, you have some really good public schools, and then you have some that are not so good. Okay? I went to public schools. The public schools I went to in Indiana, okay, my first 2.5 years of high school were really good. Okay? And it was 93 to get an A. It was brutal. Okay? I hated that school. I moved to Florida, and my GPA shot up 2 points in one semester, which tells you it was already low. Okay, because that school was brutal, man. It's like, God, 69 was an F. That stunk, okay? And I got some of those. I moved to Florida, I got all A's and B's because it was really easy, okay? It's not a very good public school. The standards aren't very high, okay? Now, since we have most of the students in this country go to public schools. And some of them are doing good, some of them are not. One of the problems is a lot of our kids, these bad schools are where? In our urban areas, in our big cities, yes? Like Washington, D.C., Detroit, Chicago, okay? Now, sometimes they have charter schools or magnet schools, okay? And guess what? Most of the parents that really care about their kids' education will try and get them into those magnet schools or those charter schools because they know they're going to have higher standards, they're going to push their kids. Okay, and education is the best way to get out of poverty. Am I right? Now, you could be a great athlete and get out of poverty, or a great rapper or musician or dancer, but how many of those people actually, achieve that? Education is the best way out of poverty. So, guys, if we do anything in this country for the poor, that is to provide them with good education. That's our responsibility, okay, is to do that, and we're not doing a very good job of that. So some people support the idea of school vouchers, okay? Now, just based on your knowledge, what would you say is, I don't want to say the worst, but the roughest public high school in Wichita? Would it be south? Would it be west? Would it be southeast? Which one do you think is probably the roughest? South? I think that's true. I had a buddy that used to be the building sub down there. He said, if you get kicked out of Heights, they send you to South. You get kicked out of Southeast, they send you to South. That sort of thing, okay? Let's say you want your kid, you live in the South School District, but you want your kid to go to a different school. You have to move? Can you just ship them to Northwest? You're in the South School District? You might be able to go to campus, which has open enrollment because they have the IEB program, and East too, right? Has the IEB, that's right. I'm saying that right. IB program, yeah. But you're kind of stuck, especially if you're poor, okay? Because you may not be able to move out of district and that sort of thing, okay? So what some people would propose is that if you're in a school that is failing, they did this in Florida. If your school is failing, that the students in that school do not read proficiently at grade level or do math proficiently at grade level, they'll put them on probation. And if that school doesn't make adequate improvement over a 2-year period, they're going to shut down that school, because nobody should have to go to a failing school like that. And they're going to give every child in that school a voucher for $13,000 that they can take with them to a different school. Public, private. Okay? Now, this voucher is going to allow a parent that is stuck in the South High School District to send their kid to Andover or Goddard or Northwest or Heights. Okay? Now, the bus system may not work out here, so you're going to have to make some sacrifices to get your child to school. Okay? Now, could you take this $13,000, okay, let's say you're at South High, and bring it to Bishop Carroll? Yes. Okay, now some people see a problem here. This is government money, yes? Can you give government money? Remember the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment? Can you give government money to a religious organization like this? Well, let's go to the Supreme Court, okay? Because in Cleveland, Ohio, they did this. They tried this out. With young people that were in struggling schools, they gave them vouchers to go to Catholic schools in Ohio, in Cleveland, okay? And people sued and said, you can't do that. Violates the First Amendment. Supreme Court said, well, wait a second. Where does this money originate? With the people, the taxpayer, right? The voucher is given to the parents. The parent is giving the money to the religious organization, not the government. And so this past constitutional muster, you can do this. Okay, and they do in Florida. Okay, they'll shut down that school, give everybody a voucher to go to a different school. Okay, everybody at that school. Okay, there's different ways to roll this out. Now, what are we going to do with $13,000? Okay, that's pretty good. Now, you guys willing to take 100 students in from South High? I have a buddy, my buddy Tom, that teaches over Northwest. His kids went to St. Francis. He said, Charlie, I don't want those kids in my kid's classroom. I'm like, Tom, come on, man. These kids need a break. Let them get a good education. What do the Catholic schools do different than the public schools? A lot, right? Higher standards? School uniforms? Jesus? Right? Right and wrong? Good and evil? Go to Mass? Learn about God? Right? Discipline? Safety? Okay? I've been here 23 years. And I missed out on a couple of them, but I don't remember any real big fights happening here. I'm sure there's been some skirmishes. But we don't really have to worry about that. I don't have any problems with discipline in my classroom. People are learning. I hope you are. Okay? You know what I mean? So why can't we do that for these kids that are in a poor school, an underperforming school? Put them in a Catholic school. Now, if you had 100 students bringing $13,000 a year, where's my calculator? We need a new auditorium, don't we? That's not going to pay for that. Times 100. Wow, that's $1.3 million. Make life a little easier around here. Finish those classrooms that have been sitting empty for years, so teachers don't have to travel. Teachers have their own classrooms, that sort of thing. Now, if we did this universally across the state of Kansas and just said, we're going to go to a voucher state and you choose what school you go to, every parent, every child chooses what school they go to, you guys would get a voucher too. Now, you still have to give it to the church, okay? We have 1,100 students, okay? 1,100 times 13,000 is $14.3 million. Now we can build an auditorium. I want lights on the baseball field. I can get it done cheap on the cheap, $250,000. Let's get a new auditorium, lights on the baseball and softball field. Okay. What else could we do? You know what I mean? Now, guys, there are so many private school students in this state. Okay. We save the state of Kansas so much money. Not just the Catholic schools, but the collegiates, the independents, the Christian schools, and so forth. Okay. $13,000 a head, we are saving the state of Kansas. Do you understand? How about a little bit of, thank you? All right, because if we all quit private schools all across the state and showed up at public schools on the first day of school, the state would go bankrupt. They wouldn't have enough money to pay. Okay, so we pay taxes, but don't use the money. You know what I mean? Okay. I don't know if we need to go to full voucher system statewide. I think we need to look out for the poorest schools, amongst us and give those kids an opportunity to get a better education. Nothing will solve our poverty problems more than that will. Welfare programs are not going to solve poverty. We've seen that. Just look at the last 60 years in this country. They don't solve poverty. Education does. Okay? discipline, work ethic. That solves poverty. Okay? So it's an idea. All right? Now, some people don't like this because if South High, let's just say we go optional and students can stay at South High if they want, well, you have a lot of students leaving. Yes, which means you need fewer teachers, which means you're going to lay off teachers. So teachers' unions hate this. Okay? Now, teachers' unions care about teachers. They're not there for the students. Okay? If South High could do it, if they had to lay off the teachers, which teachers would you lay off if you were a principal? The worst teachers, right? And then you keep the good ones. Now your school's already improving. So what you're doing is you're competing for students. So the better your school is, the more kids show up at your door, the more $13,000 vouchers you get. Now, some people don't think that competition should belong in public schools like this. Okay? And then there's a fear that students will just transfer to other schools because of sports, because of a particular coach, or something like that. Okay? Name a famous actress. Actress. Jennifer Aniston. Okay. Jennifer Aniston decides to retire from acting, and she wants to give back. So she's going to sign up to be the theater teacher at Northwest High School. Now, you're going to have kids that are interested in acting all over the area trying to get into Northwest High School. And maybe just some guys that want to go, you know. Yeah, so if you have a great football coach, you might, build these super teams and stuff like that, okay, where people would transfer just for those reasons. Well, what's wrong with a student going to Northwest to learn from somebody? I would choose somebody like me, I don't know, Glenn Close, or I don't know if Jennifer Aniston's won any Oscars or anything. She may have. I mean, she's a good actress. I guess I'm supposed to say actor, right? She's an actor, not an actress. I think that's the new thing. You guys know about that? I think that's a thing. Okay. Don't call women actresses, call them actors. Okay. Sorry. I don't know. This is kind of an interesting idea. Do you like this idea? Now, you may not want those kids coming to Bishop Carroll. You may say, hey, look, what better way to evangelize to people is by bringing them to Bishop Carroll? I mean, that's our mission given to us by God, isn't it? To spread the good news, to share it. Let's convert some people. Right? Change the world. I'm running out of time. Yeah, I wasn't even going to try and start Medicare for All today because that takes a long time. Okay, so I got off track. We did a little bit on investing and that sort of thing. So we'll pick up tomorrow. Medicare for All, guys. You should pay attention to this tomorrow because this is something we could see down the road. Okay. Now, Joe Biden has said he is not in favor of this. Okay, but the vice president, Kamala Harris, is. And many in the Democratic Party are. So we should pay attention to this. Some of you will like it. Some of you may not like it. Okay? So tune in tomorrow for Medicare for All. And then also the Green New Deal, which you may have heard of but may not know a lot about. Okay? That's my job to research that and share it with you. Okay? So I'm going to try and do those two tomorrow. And then after that, guys, it should pick up. The pace will pick up. Okay. All right. We can't do this all semester. We got to do some other stuff too. Okay. Not that this isn't important, right? Right, Mr. Ebright.